Hello, very nice to be here today. Thanks for having me. So as Scott mentioned, I work for a company called Double Dutch based in San Francisco. And it's been a long road at Double Dutch, 3 years, which may not sound that long, but in the startup world, that is a lifetime. I was the 4th employee there, and we just hit 120 employees. So it's been a rocket ship of growth, and it's been a really interesting experience. We sell to marketers, so it's a really fun challenge and one where we can get a little bit creative in pushing the envelope, because marketers just want to be dazzled. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in the B2B startup space for about 8 years, and I did a brief stint as an intern at L'Oreal in the marketing department during college, and decided big companies weren't for me. So I have a very startup approach to most of my marketing tactics. So that's my caveat. So today I wanted to start by getting to know you guys just a little bit to identify who you are and kind of where you're coming from. Is anyone an event marketer? Yeah. Oh, we got one. Woo! And has anyone represented their brand or their company at a booth at an event before? Okay, got it. And does anyone manage a marketing budget in which events are a part of that budget? Okay, awesome. So I think that the thing that I really want you to take away from this presentation is that event marketing, it sounds like it's more of a siloed event marketing channel, but I think that it actually touches all of marketing. And as we saw, very few event marketers here, but everyone's involved in it in some way. So what I wanted to do is start first by talking about this kind of digital shift that's happening in the marketing sphere in general, why we're becoming data obsessed, and how that's translating into the world of marketing, or not, as the case may be, or the world of events, rather, excuse me. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile and what opportunities that presents to marketers that are putting on events. And then I'll showcase 3 real-world examples, and I think my audio's in there, so I've got some videos to show you. And then I'll open it up for Q&A. How does that sound? All right. So I want to start with this quote by my good buddy Wanamaker, who, as a side note, also was the guy that single-handedly financed the campaign to make Mother's Day a national holiday, so all the mothers in the house can thank this guy. But he was also an early-stage marketer back in the day, and he's very well known for this quote. It says, "Half of the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half." So does anyone relate to this? Yeah. So I think that this has been a known issue for marketers for a really long time. And so what we've tried to do is build products and services that the market has adopted to build these services to help capture more data from a lot of these marketing initiatives. So this other quote says, "Today, the customer experience increasingly revolves around technology, which means that the customer experience increasingly generates data." That's from Forbes. And I really liked this quote because I think what it really captures for me is that as we become more data-driven marketers, people are increasingly generating more data as they're becoming more engaged with the applications. So I'll talk a little bit through what I think that means. So first, I want to show the kind of typical CMO budget. This is from IDC in 2012. You'll notice that there's your standard kind of chunks of budget. And we see companies that are starting to pop up to digitize these channels. So you'll know Marketo, HubSpot, Eloqua, they're all kind of coming up to help bring more data-driven decision-making to the lead lifecycle process in this case. In advertising, currently we're running on 4 different ad platforms. It's incredibly exhausting, but it's great because there's so many different metrics on each platform that you can use to help make better decisions about where to spend your money and how to get more leads. Same with email and website analytics. I won't go into those in too much detail, but what you'll notice is the big kind of chunk of events, which is typically 40% of the B2B marketer's budget, which is a boatload. And there's not a lot of companies serving that space right now. And so that's why I think it's a call to the marketing executive to really pay more attention to this space and make sure you're getting the data out of the event piece of the pie that you need to get. That Double Dutch is attempting to serve this space, but I'll leave the sales pitch out of this one. So I think that the summary from that is that event marketing is really in the dark right now. We don't have a lot of data. We know that $565 billion are spent worldwide on events. A lot of money, a lot of money. We know that it's the largest line item in the B2B marketer's budget, but we only know really 2 data points that come out of events. If you are exhibiting at an event, a lot of former booth staffers in the house, if you're exhibiting at an event, you've got leads. And that's really your primary data point as you walk away, where you say this event was good, this event was bad, based on number of leads. If you're producing an event, you've got attendees. So did people register and did they show up? Those are pretty much the 2 data points that we have. When you compare that to CPC, click through, post-view conversions, post-click conversions, all these other types of metrics that we can use in digital marketing to help really establish a better campaign in the future. We don't really have that as much in the event space. And I love this article from CMO.com. It says, CMOs have long cited events such as trade shows and exhibits as a prime marketing and customer engagement mix. But a new study by the CMO Council has found that the old ways of developing and measuring ROI for events is falling behind. And I couldn't agree more, which is actually the reason why I joined Double Dutch. I felt really passionately in this particular statement. And when you look at the world of events, it actually hasn't changed that much in the last few years. Since really the dawn of existence. You'll see that there's prettier screens, there's better chairs, there's better audio, but there's not a lot of innovation in terms of data capture, like we're seeing on the digital side. Although you should notice that there are a lot more personal devices, but we'll get to that later. This is the primary data source at events. Not incredibly cutting edge, while they are incredibly personal and you can get creative with them, they're not, the reason why we don't like business cards is because they don't leave a digital trail. Any marketing automation specialists in here? Does anyone use a marketing automation system? Okay, you just don't want to call yourself a specialist, I get it. So what we want to do as marketers is encourage people to leave a digital trail so that we can take a look at our most successful customers, what got them to be customers, and how can we reproduce that process over and over again. So business cards, while sometimes beautiful, don't really provide that for us at events. Oh, I forgot to add that slide in. And this is the other primary data source. So I'm sure you guys have rented some of these clunky hardware devices. They are really archaic, and I cannot believe that they're still around. But it is the primary data source, and it pains me to see this mainly because every attendee at every event has a super-powered computer in their pockets. It's their cell phone. It's already there. We don't need to rent this, this archaic device, to capture the data that we need to capture because there's signals transmitting between each person's phones. We've got Bluetooth. We've got iBeacon, location-based technology that we can leverage. So there's a lot that we can do that's much more advanced than this. So I consider the world of events to be pretty far behind. And when we look at the data, I think of it as just this kind of black hole. When I look at especially large trade shows, if anyone's been to a super large show, oftentimes I think there were probably a lot more leads to be had there, but it was just a really big expo floor, and how the heck would they find our booth? It's just impossible to find everything. So what I wanted to really assess is what are all those little points of interest, little signals of interest that attendees might give off that we could try to capture, so that we could better capture more leads from events. So I think mobile is really the way to make that happen. And here's a few slides to frame it. We thought that the growth of the PC market was crazy until mobile came into the picture. So you'll see, starting in 2010, it's like a rocket ship of growth. And this is actually, it's pretty old data. It's from 2012. So mobile has grown in a way that is really unprecedented from a technology adoption standpoint. And I don't know anyone that's a business professional at an event at this point in time that doesn't really have one. If we were to look at what I want to do in the next time I give this presentation is, instead of looking at global, I want to look at US metropolitan areas, because I think that would be an even sharper rise. But mobile's impacting our lives in a lot of different ways, and I don't really need to tell you about this, but I have some slides that I think sum it up. I don't know what your morning commute looks like, but I live in a tiny San Francisco studio apartment, and I walk from my apartment to my office, which happens to be 2 blocks away, with my dog, who comes to work with me. In fact, it's very weird to not have him here. He's always with me. I walk to work, and as I'm walking to work, usually around that time, I get a push notification from my local news app. I have a micro neighborhood news app, and it's a dodgy neighborhood, so there's always an alert about some kind of potentially dangerous thing that's happening or something bad that happened the night before. So I can catch up on that news. I can chat with my folks. I can listen to a podcast, do a number of things on my very short morning commute, and I'm sure you guys have all experienced this too. At the end of the day, I don't know if we have any Words with Friends fans in the house. Do we have any? Yeah. But we use our phone to unwind in so many ways, and all of these taps on your mobile device are signals of interest. So whether you're Words with Friends, whether you're Instagramming, I have an app that at every night at 9 p.m. reminds me to log what I'm most grateful for that day. So that's also a signal of interest and is something that I'm interested in. When you look at the live event sphere, I don't know if any of you have been to a concert recently, but I feel like the concerts that I go to, I typically view the concert through somebody else's cell phone sometimes, if you're standing behind them. But this is what this says to me is that mobile's providing a value in this context. It's helping us capture things that matter to us, in this case, the song, and it's helping us kind of record and capture that data point. At weddings, similar concept. This one just blew my mind with how many phones there were. And this, I've actually not seen this before, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And the real point being that people are using mobile to capture these critical data points that they want to save and to connect with other people. And to learn. I guess I would throw in that education piece. So how does any of this relate to events? Well, all of those events that all of those moments in your personal life don't really apply to work necessarily, but the contrast is at professional in-person events are typically conferences or something like this. So we stop to ask ourselves this question, is event marketing really leveraging mobile, and is it driven by data? And that's really what kind of where our product was born out of, and that's the space that I've been marinating in for the last 3 years. And so I really love this metaphor, and it's called Google Analytics for the offline world. So the way I describe it is, if you have your website, you imagine this is your website, and you have all these visitors on your website. They're, clicking into things, they're downloading white papers, they're experiencing multiple page views. All of those things are tracked with Google Analytics, say, for example. If you were to lower this down and imagine this is your expo floor instead of your website, people are kind of voting with their feet all over that conference hall, and all of those data points can be captured if you have a digital layer on top of that real world event. Does that make sense to everybody? So the way that we capture visitor data, visitor interest, visitor engagement on a website, we expect people to do product research on our website, and all of those data points are interesting, especially for B2B marketers. So the same goes for events. So we think of mobile as a sensor, and the way that we really look at that is, it knows if it's hot or cold. It knows where you physically are, and it knows, of course, what you're interested in as you tap into various parts of your phone or of a mobile application. And the more you interact with that mobile application, the more data you can start to get from your event. So we always say we don't like social just for social's sake. Attendees love it, but we like social as marketers because it gives us more data. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. But what the final kind of vision is of what we're trying to do and what I really believe strongly in is painting out a much clearer picture of the lead life cycle. So if you look at lead score, and all of these activities on your website will get you some points. So say you visited our website, you watched a video, you downloaded a white paper, those all get you some points. What about if you go to an event and you use the event app and you bookmark a product in that app? What about if you add a session to your agenda, one session? What if you highlight an exhibitor to go see later and you look at that exhibitor on the map, and maybe you look at the exhibitor on the map 20 times? We can capture all of those data points, and if you happen to not make it to the booth, we still know that that person is probably interested in our product. So whether we got the scan or not, we have those signals of interest. And oftentimes I think it can tell a bigger story. So if someone taps on the map view 20 times from your exhibitor profile, they're probably trying to find you, and they probably couldn't find you. So there's things we can learn from that. But the point being, it paints a much bigger picture of the lead life cycle if we can track all of that happens offline and marry it with all that happens online. So whether you use a marketing automation system or a CRM or both. So can I see a show of hands of anyone that's used an event app before or an app at a conference? Okay, so a lot of you, good. So these are kind of the table stakes on event apps and what most of them do. There's a lot of vendors in this space, so I encourage you to check them all out. But they have an agenda, digital version of an agenda. They've got a list of speakers with pretty pictures and bios. They've got exhibitor listings. Some of them have interactive maps. Many of them have surveys which can be tied to a specific session or maybe to the entire event. And then there's networking opportunities in some of the apps that allows people to self-identify in categories and find people that they're interested in meeting with. And so that's kind of the basic component. What we do that's really different and why I think we're so focused on data is we add this highly engaging social layer on top of it. So we basically borrowed everything that we learned from the consumer world. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, what was the supercharging engagement component to those products? Typically it was photos and the feed. So we've learned a lot about feeds in the consumer world. So what we've done is basically layered an activity feed on top of all this content. So instead of just kind of typing what you ate for lunch that day, you can look at the keynote session profile, and you can maybe capture a little sound bite from that keynote and post an update to that kind of entity so that everyone can see. People that aren't at the event or people that missed that session could actually go into that piece of, to that session and see who was there, what they thought of it. They could see an aggregated view of the ratings for that session. So it might make them feel bad if they weren't able to attend, but what it does is it brings more transparency to the end, kind of to the attendee, and it brings more data to the event organizer or the marketer, and also to the exhibitor. So it doesn't really matter what side of the table you're sitting on as the marketer. It can really, really help. And actually, one other point, since most of you look like you're exhibitors more often than not, it's a way for exhibitors to organically insert themselves into the conversation. I don't know about you guys, but oftentimes when we sponsor an event, we feel kind of like second-class citizens because they want to keep the buyers happy and they don't want the buyers to be too distracted by all the people trying to sell them things, which I completely understand. But it basically gives everybody, every stakeholder at the event, a voice. And if you're not saying appropriate things, you'll probably get flagged and removed. But there are many ways to engage organically at an event that's not in a spammy promotional way. And we like to encourage that. Something else that we do that's pretty unique and fun is we add another kind of element to the social layer, which is gamification. So we have, for each tap in the application, whether you're bookmarking something, checking in, posting an update, reading something, posting a survey, you get points for those actions. So our clients, the marketers, will configure the point system to incentivize the behavior that they want to see at the event. So say you want to get, one of your goals for the event is to get lots of new photos that you can use for your next event to kind of showcase what it's all about. You can give 10 points for each photo and maybe 1 point for a like or a comment. If you want to encourage high quality conversations, you might assign 10 points for a comment to get people talking. And some clients do really neat things with the leaderboard, actually. I was at an event, I guess it was a couple years ago, and the person on the top of the leaderboard won 20 free drink tickets. So it basically became everybody's new best friend, and it wasn't it wasn't a high monetary value, but everyone else just got one. So this person kind of became a little, celebrity, which I thought was really cute. People give away iPads and all that kind of thing, but also some clients don't give away anything, and people go crazy. And it still surprises me to this day, but if you guys know any salespeople, you'll probably know they're very incentivized by things like this. People with a little bit of competitive fire tend to respond well. And then the badges are something that, if you're familiar with the app Foursquare, kind of a borrowed concept from them. And organizers can customize badges to incentivize behavior as well. So say you really want everyone to come before 8 a.m. so that you have a full house when the keynote kicks off. You could give away a caffeinated badge if you check in before 8 a.m. And it's just kind of a little Easter egg type of surprise for someone to reinforce the behavior that you want to see. So all of that gamification and social element, what that really does is creates a very engaging platform, which we want as marketers. And when that engagement starts to spike, we start to see a web of connection form between all of the stakeholders at an event. So you'll have speakers, you'll have content, you'll have attendees and exhibitors have products. And what we want to start to do is to identify what are those connection points and how can we start to surface some of those leads that you may not have gotten at the booth. Or if you're the event producer, how can we start to fine-tune the content to be better next time around? Maybe the speaker that you paid so much for, maybe their thunder was taken away by some nobody that just happened to resonate with your audience really well. So those are all really important things to keep in mind. And we take that web and we try to distill it down to a really kind of structured data insight portal. So you can actually see engagement, you can see what people cared the most about, what exhibitors were most entertaining or engaging, and then pull some kind of choice quotes from the app as well. So really, I think the value in something like this is, from the event producer side, is being able to optimize your events like you would optimize a website or a marketing campaign. Is this making sense so far? All right. So the summary is, I really believe that mobile has provided an incredible opportunity to gather more data from events. And if you get a very engaging, hyper-social mobile application at an event, whether you're just exhibiting or you're producing the event, it can produce some real serious data. And from that data, we can pull some actionable insights. So what I'll do is play a couple videos and talk you through one case study so that you can get it from somebody else. And as a caveat, oh, that doesn't look right. Oh, it's because I'm not connected to the internet. That would be it. Any idea how to?
I'm not sure. Is there Wi-Fi in the area? I don't know. Is there?
There better be.
I hope so.
Is Scott's connected to Wi-Fi?
We'll have it in just a second.
You can't really see.
Yeah, look there. You guys get to watch me screw around on this thing.
Any questions on what I had to say so far? Is probably a good point.
Oh, you don't get to watch me.
Sorry? That's a great question. That's probably, I think, the hardest challenge that most of our clients face, because once they're in there, they love it. We good? Let's see. If I go here. Should open it. Ooh, and all of my tabs.
Cool.
I need all of this. Okay. Ah, there we go. And the audio is in there too.
Cloudera is an
Where?
Oh, you're not showing up on the
Oh, I see. Oh, right. That's a good one. So I don't know if the audio is going.
enterprise data management company.
Yeah, it's not loud enough. They won't be able to hear it. So the question was, how do we get people to download the app? So the way I see it is if you implement the app as kind of an integrated part of your overall marketing strategy, it's a lot easier. It's less kind of, we're having an event, here's an app, get it quick. So if you download it, or if you create it far in advance and you use it as the kind of access point to what's going to happen at the event, so somehow like restricting some juicy tidbits of information and pushing people into the app to find that information, we find it to be super, super successful. And I think that a large part of it is getting creative in the marketing. So we've had clients that wrap pillars with the kind of app promotion materials. I think training the people at the registration desk is really important, just making that a real seamless part of your registration process. We don't let people walk away from our registration desk without downloading the app because we know it will be a much better experience for them. So I can actually share with you guys some best practices. We've kind of built the ultimate guide to event app promotion, so I'm happy to share that after. Yeah?
Yeah, okay. Be interested in hearing that, but what's the highest percentage you've seen? What's 25% of people who come to the event? What's average?
So every event is so different, so I will give you some averages for different event types. So for sales kickoff conferences, we see 90 to 95%. All of those sales guys know each other. They want to network. They want to kill each other on the leaderboard. They have a lot of like reasons that they want to go and get in there. They're also tied to the surveys within the app to prove that they've learned enough about the product to say that they have completed this education piece. So again, the more integrated it is into your strategy, the more adoption you get. I would say at trade shows are probably the lowest adoption, the really large trade shows, especially the ones that are only one day long, because there's not a lot of educational material. The agenda is not so much of a large part of the event. But if it's a very large trade show and they really need a map and they want an interactive map to help them get around, that can really increase adoption as well. But I would say trade shows, 20 to 40%. But if you have 100,000 people there, that's a good data set to pull from. We had our largest ever deployment with Lowe's Home Improvement, and it was a sales kickoff conference, and the average kind of demographic was 50 to 60-year-old white males that had never really used a lot of technology. So what they did is they rented iPads, which is shockingly really, really cheap to do because the one generation old devices, Apple doesn't want to sell anymore. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but they rented devices in advance. They preloaded the app for everybody, and they nearly brought down our servers. I mean, it was crazy, crazy engagement. On average, there were 900 actions per user for a 2-day event. So it was off the charts. So I would say sales kickoff conferences being the highest, and then trade shows probably being the lowest.
What's the biggest barrier to entry? So you said 95%. What about the 5%?
Yeah, I think
Smartphones or?
That's quite possible. You know, I think it's a good question. I think a lot of times I hear from someone saying, like, I didn't know there was an app. Like, I wish I would have known. So I think a large part of it's app promotion. But at an event like that, if you're seeing 95% adoption, it's just probably someone that, like, I don't need that. You know, I don't care about gamification, or maybe I don't really care to give feedback or anything to the organizer. So it's really hard to identify. But I think that once people can see the value in it, it's like a no-brainer. One person told me once that I don't like to download too many things on my phone. It takes up too much space. So I think it's like, but in reality, it doesn't take up very much space at all. Like a photo takes up way more space than that app does. So I think that it's a bit of an education challenge. And 3 years ago when we started in this business, nobody knew about event apps. They didn't even know why they would want one. But now it's just kind of becoming the standard. Sure.
Quick question. I just want to check if I understood it correctly. Do you trace the routes people walk through the trade shows, you know, standing in front of a booth, the time they're spent there, all these, do you track this data?
So all of that is, the question was, how much do we track attendees walking around the floor? The short answer is, all of that is possible. The longer answer is, we're not doing most of that yet because of basically trying to work out some kinks with kind of privacy settings. How do we convey to the attendees kind of what they're going to be watched doing, basically? And I think that for the most part, we want to have an opt-in, super transparent platform. And so I think that's really the main challenge. With iBeacon, I don't know if anyone's familiar with iBeacon technology, but it's a Bluetooth low-energy technology that is location-based. It basically helps send location-based signals. So the most interesting product kind of feature release that we've done recently around location is if we have a beacon in a session room, and all iPhones have beacons embedded in them. Androids have beacons that can send signals but not receive signals. So most smartphones have a beacon, let's say that. If you come within a kind of short radius of that beacon, there will be a little push notification on your phone that says, I see you're about to enter the BMA event. Would you like to check in now? And it will basically identify where you are and encourage you to tell it back in confirmation. So that's the kind of first step, is to empower the attendee to share more. But certainly it's possible to track all of it in the background.
So what if, for example, you know, to pass this privacy thing on mobile app, you know, using RFIDs on, you know, let's say on the badges?
Yeah, we haven't done much with RFID. We found that we would rather leverage the pocket, you know, the device in their pocket that they've already brought. There's been a little bit of RFID badge experimentation in the space, and I think that it creeps people out a little bit, I think. And their smartphones, they can always disable location-based features, and they can always re-enable it. So they have more of the control, but I think just anecdotally, feedback I've gotten on RFID badges is it's kind of like, it scares them a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just going to add a comment about like people downloading at a trade show. I went to one about a month ago. They had, I want to say they had about 95% download.
Awesome.
And the reason was because they didn't have the most updated rooms and everything where you can go for the event. So they would have told you at least 10 times a day, download the app and updates. So you
Yeah.
have their information. And then they had their sponsors giving out giveaways and things like that. They said check your app to find out about those giveaways. So I think it was really effective. Basically, the book that you had was purpose.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And we hear from all of our clients that the moment you hit print on one of those printed guides, it becomes obsolete and it's already out of date. So I think that's one of the best, most kind of basic reasons to encourage people to download the app, because if you don't have the app, you don't know where to go and when. That's just kind of a really good, simple way to encourage app adoption. And I love the push notifications. When something's running behind for 10 minutes, it means everything else is behind 10 minutes. You can easily update that within the app, push it, it goes seamlessly live, and it can even alert people too. So I love that. So this first video I'll show is from a company called Cloudera, and they're a data management company. As a caveat, I've done these videos to kind of be case studies, and at the end they start to become more testimonially. So I'll just start to lower the volume, and we'll wind down after the case study part is finished. But it should give you a sense of, from various roles at their company, marketing roles, how the app impacted their events. And their events were roadshow. It was a roadshow for partners and customers, and some prospects.
Cloudera is an enterprise data management company. We help companies large and small manage their big data challenges.
Cloudera Sessions is a roadshow that we put together to educate partners, prospects, and clients on big data and help them on their big data journey. We wanted to make it an even better experience for our attendees, as well as for our partners. And to do this, we decided to introduce a mobile event app. We chose Double Dutch because we wanted a premier product with an innovative platform. Printed agendas are archaic. Having the agenda on the mobile event app was essential and convenient to attendees. If we updated the times of different sessions, they were able to see in real time.
It helped us to engage with our audience. So as we were serving up content to them, we were able to see if it was relevant to their needs.
As an event organizer, you're always worried, are people resonating with the content that's being delivered? Are they getting what they hoped for out of the event?
We were able to, if we needed to, change on a dime what we were doing and saying, or address specific questions or challenges that people were having.
I would go to the activity feed and I could see that people were resonating, they were engaged, they were enjoying the event.
The buzz at the event was really great. Some of our partners, some of our sponsors on site were really excited about the app.
It was amazing to see how much sponsors engaged within the app so that they were able to drive their own booth traffic. We had survey questions within the app so we could gather data and feedback on every component of our event. In some cities, we had about 80 to 90% adoption rates, which were huge.
Being a big data company and being data driven, it's really important for us to be pioneering. So using this technology, this app, was fantastic for us.
Working with Double Dutch was a very positive
All right, so I'll cut it there.
experience.
Oops. And I wanted to, whoa, that's kind of strange. There we go. And I wanted to walk through, before I show you the next video, I wanted to walk through another case study. SAP has used our apps at events all around the world, but SAP Switzerland I thought was such a really nice use case of how they used it to really empower their sales team, which as B2B marketers we know that matters. So their challenge, and to frame it a little bit, SAP drives a lot of revenue from events. It was tracked in a kind of murky way. We weren't really quite sure how they were tracking it, but we knew that it was a large part of their marketing strategy, and we knew they drove a lot of revenue from that channel. So the primary challenge, though, and this came from their head of marketing, is that we have no idea what our prospects do once they pass the registration desk. So the summary really being, we spend millions and we really know very little about what works. We just know that it does work. So what they decided to do is build an app that you could download. It's called SAP Swiss Events, I think. And when you open it up, you can see all the events that are happening in Switzerland. And it's not in English, but you'll get the general idea. Once you tap into the event that you're at, you can access all the agenda content, everything that we've already discussed. But they had a really large push on surveys, and I thought that was a really nice use case of gathering data, gathering feedback and data explicitly. But what they also used, which I thought was really interesting, is the implicit data capture. So at the very end of the event, they downloaded all of the content from the Double Dutch kind of CMS, the content management system, and they were able to start to create that web that web that I talked about earlier. So they looked at the top exhibitors, and they looked at the attendees that were most engaged with those exhibitors and what that might mean for an SAP sales rep. So if they had a complementary product or a similar product, they could start to target attendees a little bit more strategically. This was the head of marketing who had this really nice quote. He said, "The app helped sales reps create relationships with the right people, which ultimately resulted in increased overall productivity. Plus, attendees were thrilled with the experience." And the engagement numbers really spoke for themselves here. We had a really high engagement, and we had the leaderboards displayed on big screen and kind of big monitors throughout the event. And so it was not only on the app, but it was a separate from the app visual display, and that's another great way to get people into the app, by the way. But they were able to really identify who were the influencers at the event, and it's not always the people that are the loudest that are the most influential. So if someone only posts a few times, but on every one of their posts they get a whole stream of comments about what they had to say, that's a pretty good sign that they're contributing positively, that they have interesting things to say. The senior marketing manager was the one that actually executed the event app, and he said that by making the event app a part of our infrastructure, there was a reduction of effort and an increase in impact across the board. And so really what I think, oh, actually, by the way, look at that app promotion back there. Pretty good, huh? They did a great job at app promotion. Right before the keynote, someone came up and literally walked them through frame by frame the things that they want to see people doing in the app, and just super effective. Some clients have done little videos, those just take a little bit more time, but all you need is someone with a good sassy attitude, get them up on stage and train them on the app so they know how to talk about it, and I think you'll see pretty good results. But really they use the app in such a unique way. They just basically said, we're downloading all these reports, all the engagement reports, we're gonna try to make sense of this data, and we're gonna pair attendees with our sales reps. And we're going to make sure that they call them tomorrow and try to upsell or cross-sell or whatever it was they wanted to do. So the next one, to give a little bit of variety, wanted to throw in Exhibitor Media Group. And I got their CMO on camera, which I thought was a good, it's just a good perspective to have. And I also got some booth staff and some attendees. So, let's see.
Our mission at Exhibitor Media Group, through a monthly magazine, Exhibitor Magazine, and this show, Exhibitor 2014, is to help marketers improve the effectiveness and results of their trade show, marketing, and event programs. You know, we like to bring technology and innovation to the marketplace, and we're known as a market leader, so we have to be on the cutting edge, and we have to demand offer what the attendee wants and expects from a show in our industry.
My name is Mike Pennington, and I've been in the association management industry for about 7 years now, and have used Double Dutch apps on many occasions. Well, what I like about the apps, first of all, from the user standpoint, is they're very easy to use. It's very easy to navigate. You have an attendee at a show like Exhibitor, where we are now. It's very easy for them to navigate the floor. Then also, if you look at an association, when they put on one of their shows, where you can have all the educational content put into there, where people can have reviews of the sessions, they can check into the sessions, you can have survey questions built into them, so you can get immediate feedback on the sessions. It seems to me that the apps are very useful in a variety of different venues.
The guy came by my booth and I says, "Hey Tom, how you doing?" He didn't recognize me because my picture's a few years old. I didn't have any gray hair at the time. And he looked at me and says, "Peter, you're the #1 guy." So we've been going up and down. By the way, I think those badges are absolutely great. They're fantastic. I love the comments on the badges. That's another favorite of mine.
You know, it's really fun to post something and then somebody likes it or comments, and then you can just click on their name and find out what they do and kind of connect. And I've actually done that already once. Somebody had comments on something and we're commenting back and forth, and finally they show up. I'm like, oh hey, nice to meet you. We're already app friends. My favorite feature is definitely the leaderboard because I'm very competitive, so that's fun. And we look to see who created the app because we were pretty much interested in trying to offer services like that to our clients. It's a great way to interact with some people that we saw, maybe have lost a business card, but just the whole interaction engagement of everybody here at Exhibitor, it's a real fun process.
I absolutely would recommend Double Dutch to people who are looking for a mobile app. I would just say pick up the phone and call Double Dutch.
I would recommend Double Dutch to other trade show organizers and professionals.
All right. So does that help paint like a slightly clearer picture what it's like on the actual expo floor or at the actual event? I think that, I'm trying to think if I had anything else here to show you guys. Oh yeah, I get a lot of questions around kind of what types of companies use these types of technologies. If I'm small, can I use it? If we're really big, does it make sense to use it? And I like to show this slide because it just shows the kind of the breadth of companies it can work for and industries as well. So ones that you think might be a little kind of like not into this type of thing. The government of Colombia is a client of ours, by the way. It's just seems so strange, but they use our app at a lot of their kind of governmental events. But it can apply, the moral of the story is it can apply to any company if you're producing events. And if you're attending events as exhibitors, there's a large opportunity to work with the event organizer to try to get some of that data. So to sum it up, really I want you to walk away knowing two things, and that it's number one, events can and should be a data-driven marketing channel. So we should hold our event marketers to the same standard that we hold our digital marketers, of course, if we give them the right tools. And then second, I think that mobile is the chance to make it happen. We don't know what it will be in a couple years from now. There's Google Glass, there's all sorts of things that we just really don't know what the impact will be, but I think right now we see mobile as a huge opportunity. And so that's my thought on it, and would love to get any more questions if there are any. Sure.
So how much is it? Like, do the exhibitors pay for it? Do the show sponsors pay?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So she asked who pays for it. Yes. How's my volume? I feel like I got a little lower here. The question was who pays for the app? And it is the event producer. So whoever's putting on the event, if they want, whoever pays for the registration system, whoever pays for the venue, that would be the person that pays for it. Exhibitors can use it for free. Getting the data, some of our customers charge the exhibitors for some of the data, and some don't. So it's really up to them. And of course, as an exhibitor, you may not be able to influence them to use a particular app or not, but we're working on some products that are exhibitor specific that you would be able to go around the event organizer in the future.
What is the advantage of using the mobile app versus using the responsive website?
That's a great question, and one that I happen to feel really strongly about. So the question was, what is the difference between using an app and using a responsive website? I have been to a lot of events, and especially the last 3 years. And the primary reason that I don't love responsive websites is that internet connectivity usually sucks at events. And if you don't have connectivity, you can't use that mobile optimized site. And it's just one of those more unpredictable things to plan for. You do need connectivity to download the app, which is why we always try to get our clients to push it out early. So when you're home with your high-powered internet, you download the app, you get it all on your device, the data is cached on there. So when you open it up, even if you don't have connectivity, at least you can always access the content. And for our clients that throw away the paper guides, if they were to rely upon a mobile optimized website and have it not work, that would be no bueno. So that's my big kind of proponent for that. And I think The one other benefit of using a native mobile app is that you can send push notifications through it. You can use it as a communication channel year-round. So by leveraging the kind of native aspects of an app, you can do photos. You couldn't do that on a mobile optimized site. The activity feed, quicker. It's really, really fast. So I think there's a lot of benefits, but connectivity and probably the native phone features. Mm-hmm.
So I was curious what the end users can take away
Mm-hmm.
after the trade show. So certainly I see that there's value during the trade show, but afterwards, so for example, some of your most influential leaders are going to be, influential people are going to be thought leaders, and thought leaders like to write. So there's some things that they might prefer to write on their blog while they're at the event, or on LinkedIn, versus something that they might want to write in the app. So I'm curious, is the way for them to connect the app to the outside world? Because data is provided to the event managers and to the vendors, certainly, but what do they get out of that? And then the follow-up question is actually, do you find that people, if there's not a large connection, develop sort of a trade show persona that's maybe a little bit more different and interactive than if they were forced to share in a more public space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I see the app kind of thriving, the question.
This is a really long question, I'm sorry.
Well, the question was, let me see if I can summarize it. The question was, how do you provide value to the attendees after the event through the app? Is that a good summary? It was more like, how does the attendee get value during the event and then after?
Can you take that experience with them?
Yeah, take that experience with them. That's a really good question. And one that is very timely because just 2 weeks ago, I actually worked with an engineer on a Hack Day project, which basically takes all of your event activity. So every speaker you checked into, every session you attended, every booth you gave a 5-star rating to, we're basically consolidating all that information into a little personal report so that if you attend Interop in Las Vegas, it's a huge trade show, you've done tons of sessions, you can actually hit print on your app engagement report. You can show that to your manager and say, these are all the vendors I assessed and the ratings that I gave them. These are the sessions I attended and my thoughts on those sessions. So you could actually have it be kind of something that you take with you. In regards to kind of writing more thought leadership types of pieces, what we try to encourage kind of smaller sound bites in the app, and mainly because it's hard to really write long pieces of content on your phone. Yeah, more of a tweet length than a blog post length. But what we do see is a lot of cross promotion. So you should definitely use, if this thought leader is on the app and they want to encourage people to visit their website, they could post a link to their blog post in the event activity feed and channel traffic out that way. So I think that there's a lot of ways for attendees to use it as well to promote, to not only promote what they're doing, but to continue the conversation down the road. And that's why we encourage people to keep it on their device, because if you say you keep the app and in 6 months when there's another event, you might get a special discount code pushed to you because you were at the event before and you're still on the app. Or maybe you get the opportunity to fill out a survey to actually tell the organizers what you want to see at the next event. So it's empowering to the attendees because they get more control over the direction of the future events.
Are you guys, so for example, using the app after post-event for posting content, so slide decks, videos, things like that, trying to get people to come back?
Yeah, that's another way people really come back to the app. In fact, after the Interop show, Interop's a client of ours, the whole feed was like, where can I get the presentation? How do I get the presentation? And the event organizers were not expecting that to be such in hot demand immediately after. So at the next event, they actually had it all queued up and ready to turn on right when the event was over. I actually think they turned it on before the event was over. So it's a good way to kind of learn that people really want those presentations. And so yes. Yep.
You've been tracking which users went back and actually.
Yep. We can track all of it.
So a lot of folks that don't attend events, are people starting to use apps like this more for, they register but they don't attend, or you hear a lot about virtual trade shows these days, things like that. Are they letting folks who don't register and attend log on to the app? You can still download it.
Yeah, you can still download them. Some of our apps are closed registration, so everything is behind a registration wall, and you have to have login credentials from the organizer to access the content. Many of our events are that way, like R&D conferences. They don't want that info getting out. Sales kickoffs, that type of thing. But a lot of, like Interop keeps it open registration, and they basically say, like, look, if you didn't register for the event and attend the event, you can experience the event through the app, and it was going to make you want to come the next year. So they almost use it as a promotional tool to try to get more recognition for the event and kind of give them a flavor of what they'll see at the event. Mm-hmm.
From exhibitors or event managers,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what kind of analytics you provide them after the event?
Yeah, so we can provide a lot of data. Let me pull up one of those surveys.
Because I see that here leads and attendees are the main data point for your...
Yeah. So what we can get, it really depends on what you want to get, because basically every time someone actually taps on an item, we can track that. So it's almost like data overload. And so we have a data science team at our company that actually helps customers parse through some of that data. But we can give you a sense of kind of what were your most popular speakers? What were the speakers that generated the most buzz? What was the content that was most interesting?
But here's my question, because the approach is based on the user's actions. So if they don't, push a button there, you don't get any information. So you cannot predict the whole people. If the engagement rate is low, then it can be biased.
It's a great point, and that's why we really try to get engagement up at the beginning. But it still gives you a good sample set. Even our customers that do, we did a 100,000 person trucker show, and it was a really interesting target audience. Hadn't been to an event like that before. Big semi trucks on the expo floor. Anyway, the photo feed was awesome, but they had maybe 10% engagement, and it was really low. And we all at Double Dutch thought it was like, oh, this is a failure. And the client was really happy actually because it was more data than they'd ever gotten, and it was 100,000 people. So 10% of that was still a pretty good sample size of. And then the caveat to that is it could be a skewed sample because it's tech adopters. Maybe that would be more likely to download the app. But I guess the primary thing that I would say is if you download it and you never post anything, but you do use it to access content, we can still track those taps. So if you're reading a page, if you kind of pull up the keynote description, we can tell that you're viewing that page. So it's like the difference between a page view and a click. So we can still capture some data if you're not kind of publishing to the app and being a super user or a super communicator through the app.
How many clients do you see that actually had the ability of a marketing team to know how to use this data intelligently versus you guys having to step in and having to help them with it? Really,
Yeah.
Almost like market automation, most people can't do it without someone else.
It's a good question. I think that most of our clients underutilize this, to be fair, and I think that there's a lot more that we can do to empower them. I think that the bar is really set low for event organizers. I don't mean to kind of like I have planned events in the past, but what I think, when you walk into an event and you leave, it's that experience you take with you, and if everyone was really happy, we actually threw an event for our customers 2 weeks ago at the Converse store, flagship store in San Francisco. We rented out the whole store. The networking event at the end of all the sessions where everyone could customize their own pair of Converse sneakers. We had like super hot food and super hot DJ, and it was just an amazing event. And we all walked out of there like, oh, we killed that. That was so good. But we didn't actually look at the app data yet. So I think that we're still living in this world of event marketing that's like very driven by gut and instinct and a lot less on data. So when we actually pulled the engagement report for the event, which of course we did an app for our own event, we were able to pull some more unique insights there out of that. Did that answer your question? We had one other. Go for it.
So unfortunately, as exhibitors, we don't get to control what type of tools the collect more data other than just like the lead capture devices?
Yeah. It's a great question. We're working on those right now. I think that that's a huge market opportunity for my company, but I think that you know, it's tough because the exhibitor, the organizer kind of controls the ecosystem, but what they are incentivized, the exhibitors and sponsors are what keeps the event going from a revenue perspective year after year at a lot of these events. And so I think a part of it's education on the organizer, and a part of it's us building more tools for the exhibitors. But if we can really show the organizer that your sponsors will be much happier if you have this type of technology, then it's easier. But right now the answer is no.
Do the organizers let the exhibitors know who clicked on you? I'm assuming you give that information to them. Do they pass it to the exhibitor? Do they sell it to the exhibitor? Or what do they do with all the information that they own? It's good for the exhibitor.
It's a great question, and it's kind of across the board right now. Some of our clients are selling it to the exhibitors. Some are giving it. Some don't even know it exists. But I think that what we really want to facilitate a world of kind of more open access to the event data. Like if you're an exhibitor, you should know, you have the right to know if people tapped on your profile page. If one person tapped on your profile page 20 times and not on a single other exhibitor's page, that's a good signal of interest. And I feel like the exhibitors have a right to know that. So we're really pushing for this kind of free open access to event data. Yeah, some of our clients use our app. We have a QR code scanner that you can turn on in the app, and we can do scavenger hunts at exhibitor booths and that kind of thing. I don't know. I think QR codes are a little bit dead myself. I think that people are over it. I think iBeacon's much more interesting. If I stand next to you and my phone buzzes because I had bookmarked you as a person that I wanted to meet, like that's much more interesting to me than a QR code scavenger hunt. But I'm also like steeped in this world of events and have been kind of talking about QR codes for years. So I think it serves a good purpose, and I think it can be really good for events that are predisposed to responding well to that. So if you've seen it work in the past, I think until you find something better, there's not really a reason to throw it out. That's what I would say.
Jen, what were perhaps two of the biggest changes of direction that either your company or your product took from when you first thought you were employee number 4, right? From the start to where you are today, what were the two biggest shifts?
That's a great question. Are you a startup person? You started your own company, yeah? So you probably know there's a lot of shifting that happens. Well, two largest shifts. I would say, so really the idea formed at South by Southwest 4 years ago. We were at the event, and our co-founders were sitting in this one hotel, and they were taking all these meetings with investors. And at that time, Foursquare was so popular, and we were, of course, all on it, using every new hot app because we really felt passionately about the mobile space. So he checked into the hotel on Foursquare, but all of these new meetings were completely new news bits that he wanted to publicize to the world, but wasn't able to because he didn't change his location. And so we thought, why does it have to be around location? If you're at an event, you're really only in one location. But there's other factors that change, like what session you're in, what speaker you're with, what person you're talking to. So we basically kind of tried to coin this term of the object-based check-in. So you could select, you could create a list of drinks, and you could check into various drinks if it was a party app. We've actually done that before. You could do a list of speakers, and you could have people check into speakers and post updates on speakers. So really the first kind of push was, how do we incorporate a mobile app that's similar to Foursquare with a check-in gesture that's engaging and social, but that provides more value when you're in one general area. And then once we started iterating on that concept, and Cisco was one of our earliest customers actually, which was a blessing and a curse, but we started rolling out that product. We found there to be really good traction. And I think the second thing that we did that was potentially very distracting is we saw it working so well in the event space, we thought this would be a great internal team collaboration app. And this would be a really great sales app to add on to your CRM. So we built out 2 other products in about 2 years ago. And one was, and we actually use it today still internally. It's an internal collaboration app, but instead of checking into sessions, we check into projects. So I might check into this event right now and post a photo of all of you guys and say I'm here at the BMA event so that everyone back at the office knows. And then we built a mobile layer on top of your Salesforce to basically help sales reps easily post updates to their opportunities. So it's designed for field sales reps. And very similar concept, very similar structure, but we were so dazzled by the CRM market being so big. But what we didn't realize is the event market is so big and there's so much untapped out there. And just knowing the data-driven kind of marketing push that's coming through, we thought, why don't we just focus a little bit? We dropped off the other products, and it's been the best move that we made. Certainly a lot easier for me. I only manage one brand, one product, lots of features. But yeah, so it's been a wild ride. Anybody else? Sure.
So how much is it?
Oh, how much does it cost? It ranges, of course, depending upon the number of events that you're producing. So we have an annual license. We're a SaaS company. Starts at around 6 to 7K per event, depending upon how many integrations you want to do. It can go up to like 12,500 per event. My sales team would kill me for disclosing that information, but there it is. So pretty wide range. If you buy a lot of events in a package, then you can cut down some costs there. I'm sorry, was that your question earlier and I totally missed it?
Well, it's okay. Yeah.
We ended up getting it.
Do you find that companies use it for something other than just events? If you mentioned that you guys kind of use it as a mobile collaboration internal platform, I think that's an area that my company kind of struggles with. We've got our intranet, but it's not really friendly.
That's the thing. I sit at my computer on my phone, and it's so funny that we see that all the time. People are using mobile at the workplace so much more. So people do use it differently. At the beginning of the events, we find that the event staff kind of uses it for logistics planning, which I think is really cute. After the event, people use it as kind of a content discovery tool. So the event organizers might swap out sessions, and they might swap in topics and try to encourage conversations around different topics, so almost building a year-round community within the app. So we have seen people do that. Whenever we talk about the internal mobile collaboration app, everybody wants it. But we're trying to focus on the event space, but I do think that I think it's an awesome product. I mean, we still use it internally to this day. It was just like we had to finally focus on something. But you could definitely use it in it's a white label app, and it's all cloud configurable. So if you wanted to change the name from sessions to projects, you could easily do that. Mm-hmm.
Have you had any feedback from attendees or from conferences and such about, because so many people now are looking at their phones even more at the event, is it decreasing the amount of face-to-face personal communication that's going on? It must be changing the whole feel of the networking part.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and one that I do get often from especially from people that really believe in the value of face-to-face. And my answer to that is, we believe in the value of face-to-face, which is why we focused on the events space. But we don't want to ignore the smartphone addiction that has developed in our society. And so we thought there's 2 options. You fight the smartphone addiction, and there's some events that they make you turn off your phone and put them away, and it makes people very anxious. And so, my phone has been over there the whole time. It's normally in my pocket. I'm feeling a little naked. But you can fight it, or you can embrace it and ride the wave. And so we basically chose to embrace it, and we encourage our clients to embrace it, because what it does, it's that data piece. It's something that, it can provide you a lot of data, and it also really facilitates that in-person interaction in a way that didn't really before. So the one woman from Exhibitor Media Group, she was the booth staff, Michelle, she actually was on the app, active, kind of connected with someone, and she said, when the person came by the booth, she said, "Oh, we're already app friends." I love that part. She's just such a sweet girl. But in some cases, it actually facilitates more face-to-face interaction. So I think it's hard to quantify per se. And I know that if I'm at an event that doesn't have an app, I am kind of thinking of sound bites that I can write down or that I can tweet. And in this case, it's the same thing. I'm just putting it on the app, and then I can push it out. I actually didn't mention this. If you post something on the app, you can, with a few toggles, post it also to Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. So it's almost like killing multiple birds with one stone. And we're all going to take notes, or we're going to tweet it, or we're going to do something with the content. So I like to have it in one kind of private network that's all around the event content. Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people go to the same events year after year. So is there a way to pull the data on that they entered in, or the people that they met from the previous year into the next year?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's the persistent profiling. So we have developed that. I don't know if other event app vendors have it. Actually, I just haven't really done my research there, but we have persistent profiles. So if you come back year after year, a lot of our clients have events every month, and you can maintain a profile throughout. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Google Glass being one sort of future thing. Where do you see events in 5 years? What are we going to be doing differently in 5 years?
Yeah, it's so hard to tell, right? Mobile has been such really didn't take off until 2010, which is only 4 years ago. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I don't even remember what life was like before that. I think Google Glass type of technology, I think virtual reality type of stuff will be really interesting. I think about when I'm walking to work and I'm trying to send a text message and I'm trying to hit play. I'm thinking that there's actually a lot, there must be an easier way to do that, even though it's much easier than it used to be. So have you seen the movie Her? Has anyone seen that movie? Yeah. So I think, I don't know when, but I think at some point we'll have tiny little earbuds in there, and we'll just walk and we'll say, text my mom that I'll be running late for dinner. And this operating system that lives in our ear will just send that message. And similarly at events, I think that it might be, you don't ever have to say, I want to check into this space, because it knows you're already there. So that's where I think it's probably going, but I think that virtual events were tested. On24 is a company that tried to do it. A lot of webinars still happen, but virtual events, I think that it was a great idea that tested and failed. I think that people still need face-to-face. So even if we're walking around with operating systems talking in our ear, I think we still need to have that human interaction. So I don't see events going away. In fact, in the Depression, you'll see that there was a slight cut in budgets across the board for events, but they were still happening. They just spent less on flower arrangements and things like that. They still happened. So
we're going to be walking around with the Oculus.
Yeah, some big Oculus goggles.
Really, do the face-to-face. Or it'll be very difficult.
Yeah, that would ruin the eye contact piece, I think.
Well, virtually.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a couple more questions. First, we're talking a lot about marketing, but we're talking a lot about technology. How much are you guys involved with if you guys are doing these types of things, how much is the CIO or how much is the IT department involved versus just marketing?
Oh no, the whole team's involved. Yeah, the whole team's involved. I would say that we are marketing and sales. Well, marketing is at a lot of events. We produce our own events, so we feel the pain of the organizer. We produce our own apps. We feel the pain of our clients in a way that no one else at the company does. Product and engineering get a lot of feedback from us and a lot of feedback from sales, because they're just on the phone all day long talking about what problems they can help marketers solve. So I would say it's a pretty interactive, kind of collaborative feedback loop. And we really want to kind of keep the eye on the prize that the first priority is engagement, because without engagement, you can't get data, and that's what we're trying to sell. And so we think a lot about the attendees, and it's challenging because we don't sell to the attendees. So it can be hard because we're trying to cater to a lot of different audiences, but we think about the attendees, well, we'll get them so excited and engaged, and how can that benefit the organizer? So that's our kind of product priorities.
So how often do you guys get asked about security?
Less now than we used to. In the early days, we did a lot. We've undergone so many security audits from really the large companies that have the infrastructure for that kind of stuff. We, 2 years ago, started powering the Black Hat conference, and that's like the ultimate hacker conference. And for the first year, we actually tried to win their business, and then we pulled back at the last minute. We're like, oh shoot, these guys are probably going to bring us down and bring all of our customers down, because that would be just a playground for a hacker to hack up our system and expose all of our customer data. So we said, give us 1 more year, we'll get back to you. We just want to make sure that we're completely ready for this. So we actually set up a separate server. We duplicated all of our customer data and locked it away. And during the event, I mean, it's been great. We've done it 2 years now with great success. So I think people that know the Black Hat Hackers Conference, when they know that we've powered that for 2 years, they're like, oh, they probably got security under control. So.
One more question. So you were talking about how they can integrate with Twitter, Facebook. So what do you see most of these customers, the business guys, using most? Where are they spending their time with their vendor conference? Are they using Twitter? Are they using LinkedIn? Are they using Facebook? Do you have stats on that?
I don't have stats on that here, and I actually don't know the exact numbers, but far and away Twitter. And it's really interesting because Twitter is if you think about it, it's a very event-focused platform. The hashtag is to kind of capture things around a moment in time or around a topic. So we see Twitter at events to definitely be the biggest, Facebook being the least, and I think that makes sense. Professional events, people want to post an update to LinkedIn, but if you think about the quantity of times you post on Twitter, it's typically a lot higher than what you'd post on LinkedIn. And I try to curate my LinkedIn posts a little bit more. It's not like word vomit, you know. I hope that I never have that, but so yeah, I would say Twitter number 1.
Is it correct to say that the quality of data, information that you provide afterwards is your competitive advantage?
For Double Dutch?
Yes.
I would say yes. I would say that the quality of data, the access of data, so like the actual dashboard that you can log in. I know that other companies, they just like send you Excel spreadsheets, but we have like a dashboard and all the graphics animate really pretty and you can export it. And so I think the visualization of the data, but I also think the product itself. So most of our competitors have a digital guide. And you can only interact so much with the session description. You know, like if you're just reading about the keynote presentation, it's not a really engaging piece. But if you can see who's at the presentation and you can send them a message and you can, you know, connect with them through the app, or you can leave a rating or post an update, it's a much more engaging platform. I almost think of it less as a digital event guide and more as an internal Facebook for your event.
Here's the deal. For example, from a prospect client's point of view, why should I pay, let's say, $6,000? I can just build a Facebook event.
Yeah, so I think that if you have a public event that you're fine kind of being public on the world, then you could easily do that. I think
just a group, for example, on a road show for my sales staff, training my reps, for example. So.
Well, you could create a Facebook event, but you wouldn't have the schedule builder, you wouldn't have an interactive map, you wouldn't have networking. I mean, they could network probably, so I'll scratch that one, but it wouldn't be an event-specific kind of entity. It also wouldn't be branded to your event, so you lose that branding opportunity. You wouldn't be able to send messages or push notifications through the phone. So there's trade-offs, but a lot of people, if you're putting on a smaller event, like a Facebook event, could be exactly what you need. I don't think that there's necessarily a need. I think for larger conferences, if I went to a conference and had to use a Facebook group to find the agenda, I don't know. I think I would feel weird about that. because I try to separate my Facebook from my professional life, but I don't know where everyone's at with that. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see that how you respond
Mm-hmm.
to such kind of.
Yeah, this is much more, and I think that the bigger thing that I actually didn't even mention is you don't own that data from Facebook.
Correct.
Sorry.
Correct.
Yeah, you don't own that data. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that first. So if it's your own app, you own all the data. You can do whatever you want with it, and you can make your events better. Good sound effect.
6 o'clock hour. Any other final questions? You want to take one or two more? Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Jennifer. So thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Quickly tripping out, and I want to thank Skyline for giving us the